From the New Arts and Media Studios in Milwaukee, I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. Since last we spoke, there was a 4-day weekend, which every weekend should be a 4-day weekend, in my opinion. But this was good because the Friday after we spoke was a snow day, the first big snow here in Milwaukee. So that was nice. You know, we love a snow day. And then, of course, Saturday, Sunday, and then Monday was Martin Luther King Day. So a full-blown 4-day weekend, which, great. That's the way the world ought to be. Every weekend should be a 4-day weekend. And it was also wild card weekend for you NFL fans, which I am, and I know I shouldn't be. I know all the reasons I shouldn't be. But the sport itself, the game itself, is just too beautiful. And I know the injuries and the concussions, and I know all the money in the NFL, and I know the misogyny and the racism. Yes, there are terrible things to say about the NFL, and I can't argue with any of it. I agree. Your critics of the NFL are right in every regard. And yet I just can't pull myself away because the game itself is so damn beautiful that I can't turn away. All the tangential stuff that goes along with sports is just so weird. I'll tell you what one of the weirdest things, and again, real criticism can be voiced about this sort of culture of fandom, especially the sort of the toxic male traits about, we know that abuse, and there's nothing to joke about here, just horrible. Domestic abuse is up after a loss of your team. After the Super Bowl weekend, domestic abuse it's terrible. Okay. This week, my Green Bay Packers stunned the football world and trounced the Dallas Cowboys. And this very fragile, toxic male fandom was on display. And of course, social media loved to feed me, particularly, all of these videos made by Dallas Cowboy fans, young men, middle-aged men, just completely losing it. And you know how the algorithm works. If you stay and watch one video, there's, oh, well, Charles Purcell likes that video. I'll send him some more. So each one I watched put more in my feed. So it was just I was on an endless loop of these poor guys just losing their shit over their Cowboys' loss. So that's one of the really very strange things about football. Many strange things, but like I say, the game itself is a beautiful thing, and that's why I can't tear myself away. But so there you go. Since last we spoke, well, okay, this ridiculous situation in Gaza continues. 24,000 plus by the time you hear this, and by the time we speak again, it'll certainly be over 25,000 killed, over 61,000 injured, wounded. So and it just continues. The attack on Gaza continues. The case in The Hague continues, charging Israel with genocide. And if you're going to charge Israel with genocide, you got to charge the U.S. with something, because it only happens with U.S. support. It does not happen without U.S. support. The United States, Genocide Joe, could end this thing tomorrow. He could just stand up to Israel. He could announce to the world, nope, we've had enough. This is over. Not a penny. Not one more penny. But no, he's not. Genocide Joe is not doing that. And in fact, it's even worse. Now he's decided, as the cop of the capitalist world, that we can't have a disruption of supply chain. We need that Red Sea. We got to get goods and oil and everything through there. So no, you Houthi rebels who are showing support to Gaza by attacking ships. And let's be clear now. I want to make sure, because I'm sure you haven't heard this, because it's only in a very select few media outlets will tell you that the Houthis And I'm not going to defend them. I don't really know much about them. I'm not going to pretend I know a lot about them. But I do know this much. They're not killing anybody. They're not, they've been labeled terrorists again. The U.S. has officially designated them as terrorists. I guess Trump had them on the terrorist list, and then Biden at some point in his presidency took them off that list. And I don't know what it means exactly. It's like declaring a state of emergency. It changes the way you can fund things, or what laws you can enact, or what laws you can not enact but put into play. I don't know how it works. But the Houthis are now labeled again, as they were once before, as terrorists, which gives you the idea that they're out beheading people and attacking and killing and raping. And no, they're just turning ships around. As far as all the reporting I can find, they haven't hurt anybody. They haven't killed anybody. They haven't hurt anybody. They're just shooting at ships and making them turn around. So, again, I'm not going to defend them. I'm not going to say, good for you. But we should know facts. And that's something I say all the time. We really should know what's going on, right? As opposed to not what's going on, or especially as opposed to what the liars want you to think. And I think a lot of people want you to think that the Houthis are these ruthless, bloodthirsty killers and rapists. And no, they're just turning ships around. At least that's what's happening so far. And Genocide Joe decides, let's go kill some people and drop some bombs. And so now we got war going on there. It's drawing Iran into the game here. We got attacks in Iraq, in Syria, the increased violence against Hezbollah in Lebanon, and even in the West Bank, the killings still continue over there. The IDF supports violent Israeli settlers, and I don't like that term settler, but you know what I mean. The Israelis who go in and they build these big housing tracts on occupied land, it's against Israeli law, against international law, and yet they just do it and they get away with it. And then you're not just like building a nice little cul-de-sac and moving into the neighborhood with all your friends. No, you're going in, and with the help of the state military, you are conducting violence against the Palestinians who are supposed to be living there on their land. All right, I'm not going to get into. I'm already way deeper into this than I wanted to get. This is all just to say, it continues, and it not only continues, it just escalates and gets worse and worse for no damn reason. All right, so what I really want to talk about here in this episode is presidential politics. Just this once. We won't do it every week. We're not going to get buried in this like all the media does. But the Iowa caucus has just happened, and New Hampshire now is right around the corner. So we're off and running. So I thought this would be a good time to talk about presidential politics. Let me start out, and let's be very clear right from the outset. I'm a social anarchist. There shouldn't even be a president. And if there is a president, that post should be just kind of like a Miss America. Like, we like you. You're a cool person, and you're kind of good looking, and you speak well, and you can represent us around the world. And you can go to like state funerals, but you don't really have any power. The power belongs to the people laterally. Power is distributed laterally. That's the way things work in social anarchism. That's what I advocate for. That's the way it ought to be. So let's be clear from the outset that I don't even think the position of president should exist as it does now. It's certainly way too powerful. And what's weird is it seems way more powerful when the Republicans are in office. Oh, see, now I hate when that happens. I just got a text. I'm going to turn off my notifications. What was I saying? The presidency seems like it's much more powerful. Like when the Orange Menace had the office for 4 years, he just did whatever he damn wanted to. He didn't care if it was against the law. He's like, well, fine, take me to court. And if you have Congress to back you up, say, okay, all right, I'll give a $6 trillion tax cut to rich folks. Okay, that sounds good to us. But then, for the most part, Democratic presidents, seems like they can't get anything done. President Joe went in to office promising voting rights, student debt relief, which he's been able to get a little bit done, but not as much as he wanted to. He got some high ticket things done, the infrastructure bill and the Build Back Better, or whatever they call it. So yeah, he's gotten some things done, but very much within that very limited scope of what presidents can do. And we're going to clear the air here about a lot of things. Let's get a lot of things straight. It might take the whole episode just to get a few things straight. All right, if you don't know this, please understand this. Hear me now and listen to me later. Who said that? Some comic. Well, that was his line. Hear me now and listen to me now and hear me later, or whatever. Meaning, listen up. The president has almost nothing to do with the economy, at least certainly not in the first year of their presidency. Barely in their second year. Maybe by the third year, yeah, maybe your policies have something a little bit to do with the economy, but it's never all that much. The president doesn't have that much power. By the third or fourth year, yeah, you can make a difference, especially if you do really big things like the trillions and trillions of dollars in tax cuts. That made a real difference in the distribution of wealth and in the further degradation of the middle class. One thing that Biden keeps getting blamed for by the Republicans is that all of his big ticket items, the ones I mentioned, the infrastructure and the Build Back Better, and had the largest climate initiative in the history of the United States, which is good, but it's like, it's we've already created this Frankenstein's monster. It's like giving the Frankenstein's monster a nice new haircut or something. It's really not a change. But what was I saying? Oh, the Republicans say that Biden's big ticket items were the reason for inflation, which if they don't know that's a lie, then they're just stupid. If they do know it's a lie, then they're knowingly lying to you. Any independent economist will tell you that all of the Biden spending may have contributed maybe a point and a half to the inflation rate, which was really bad a year ago, but is very good right now, to be honest. So yes, may very well have contributed to inflation by a point and a half. But the rest of inflation, and it was very high there for a while, lots of other reasons. Certainly the invasion of Ukraine by Putin. Certainly the slow recovery from COVID, which completely screwed up supply chains. And then, most importantly, which doesn't nearly get enough attention, was the exploitation of the COVID crisis by the billionaire class and the CEO class to take advantage of that situation, to gouge people, to jack up prices, and then use inflation as this sort of excuse. Oh, well, inflation. No, it's much of it, inflation can be attributed to gouging, to what's been called greedflation. Corporations made record profits over the last several years, all through COVID and to present time. Just look at the books. Record, just billions and billions and hundreds of billions of dollars of profit. While wages have risen only slightly, but not in any way keeping up with inflation, and not even close to keeping up with profits. So yeah, there's greedflation, there's shrinkflation. You've heard of that, where instead of 16 ounces of a product, it's now 12 ounces for the same price, or maybe a couple pennies more. So lots of reasons for that. So the presidency, we're talking about the presidency today. It has almost nothing to do with all the things they're getting blamed for. Another example of the blame game, and I confess, this is going to come right out of the Biden playbook. I don't like to repeat talking points, but when they're true, how are you going to get around it? And this one is absolutely true, and that's the southern border. Joe Biden came in from the very get-go right he went right from his inauguration parties, got up the next morning and said, let's do something about immigration. They got a bill to Congress like immediately for immigration reform, and the Republicans just aren't having any of it. And they don't ever want actual reform. They want it as an issue. They want it to hold over the Democrats' head. If the Republicans would just be like an actual party and they would care about governing, they would be working with Biden on the proposed bill, and they'd do something about immigration reform. But they don't want to, and they're never going to. So yeah, like I said, I don't like just to repeat talking points, and this is a Joe talking point, but he's 100% right on this one. Something else, we're doing some presidential fundamentals right here. I also want to be very clear because I just repeated a Joe talking point. I'm not a Democrat. I'm not a Republican. I'm an independent through and through. That's not to say that I think they're the same, because they're not. The Republicans are off the cliff, off the deep end. They've gone full Nazi fascist. The whole ideology, the whole party just has to wither away and die. That's the only way we can make any progress as a country, if they just go away. And hopefully the voters in this country will see to it. Presidential politics. What else? Oh, getting back to what I was talking about a second ago. I don't drive that much anymore. It's kind of rare that I have to drive. I take my car out once a week just to make sure it gets some exercise, and the juices and the oils are, the fluids. That's what I'm looking for. The fluids are circulating through the engine. Anyway, the last time I got gas, you know how much I paid? $2.69. The average price right now is, I think, under $3, or it's hovering around $3. So we're not even near record highs. We're not even near any kind of high. These are just very normal gas prices, and they continue to drop. Food prices are dropping. Everything's dropping. So if those two issues, the border and the economy, those are the two issues that Republicans are really hanging their hat on, and they're both just big old freaking lies. They couldn't be more liar than that. Now, on the economy, I will say this. The big numbers almost never reflect people's personal experience, because everything is an average, everything is an aggregate. It's the median this and the average that, and there's no median or average person or family. Everybody's got their own issues. So it's really difficult for an incumbent president to tell a voter, no, don't believe your own checkbook. Don't believe your own bank balance. Don't believe your own paycheck. Everything is actually great. The economy is great. So ignore everything in your actual personal life. Forget the debt you're in. Forget the student loans you can't pay off. Forget the fact that you can't afford to buy a house if you're a young person, and you'll never be able to afford to buy a house. When you look at the facts, you wonder, how is that ever going to happen? So no, forget all about that. No, I can't put my kids through school, and even if I do, I'm worried. Just close your eyes to all of that, and just hear me when I tell you the economy is great. So that's never going to work. But the fact is, according to those numbers, the economy is great. You see what I'm saying? But the incumbent president is always going to get the blame for whatever's not working in your life as a voter. So if you're just not able to kind of get things going the way you want to, and you can't get ahead, and all these things, like I just said, are happening to you, your student debt, and you can't afford your grocery bill, and you can't afford your mortgage or your rent. If all that is happening, well, okay, who am I going to blame? Just blame the president. See, that's why the whole system is so screwed up. The president is like the quarterback of a football team. Way too much credit, way too much blame. It's a damn team sport. And what's going on in the economy, what's going on at the border, what's going on Now, foreign policy is a different situation. I don't want to trick myself into going back into that because I'll get all deep and buried. But yeah, the president has a whole damn lot to do with foreign policy. Yeah, any U.S. president is really going to be calling the shots on that. And they have, as I started the episode saying today, way too much power in my opinion. But let's get back to domestic stuff. Yeah, the economy really is, by any objective standard, it's just humming along. It's going great. Prices are going down. Inflation's going down. Gas prices are going down. Wages are going up. The United States is doing better than literally everybody. They're doing better than China. They're doing better than Europe. And yet people have this weird, put quotation marks around the economy, saying it's bad. It's actually not. It's actually in the best shape it's been in a very, very long time. But any incumbent president is going to get the blame when things aren't great. And like I said before, there's a disconnect between what the economy is actually doing and what people perceive in their own lives. So the problem is so much bigger than contemporary politics. This is why I'm a social anarchist. This is why I'm an abolitionist when it comes to money. Because the whole system is screwed up. Nobody's ever going to be able to buy a house again. And when I say nobody, I mean a lot of people are going to be able to buy houses. But we know who they are, and we know who they aren't. Being able to afford a decent, good college education without going massively into debt, being able to live comfortably, safely in a nice, comfortable, safe house or apartment in a nice, comfortable, safe neighborhood is for fewer and fewer people. And it's the whole damn system. It's not because Genocide Joe has screwed up. No, actually, he's doing fine. I've said this before. You may have heard me say this. Maybe I haven't said that. I think I said this in private conversations. Joe Biden is the president you want if you like the system we have. We often talk about the world we want and the world we have. And, the pragmatist says you got to live in the world we have. You can't live in the world you want. Maybe you can work for the world you want, but in the meantime, you got to live in the world we have. So that's how I think about Joe. If you think this is the world, how the world ought to work, the basic rules that CEOs and corporations get to be non-democratic places where the boss makes the rules, where the guy with the money owns the stuff, gets to make the rules, gets to be the boss. Other people sell their labor. This is the system we have. This is the world we have. If you think this is the right world, if you think this is the good system, then Joe Biden is your president. In fact, he's the perfect president. Oh, well, let's pass a law. So $35, there's a $35 cap on insulin per month. You know what? That's a wonderful and great thing. It really, really is a wonderful and great thing. What else did he do recently? There was that. I can't think. There was another. They're always tinkering around with, like junk fees and how much you're going to pay for your bag to fly on an airplane, all stuff like this. They're kind of working around the edges. And for the world we live in, where capitalism rules, where profit rules, and the government can step in once in a while and say, well, okay, like I said, give Frankenstein's monster a nice haircut and he'll look a little better. Maybe buy him a new suit. Just kind of dress it up. It's not quite so bad. It's a little bit better for everybody. If you like the current set of rules, then Joe Biden is your perfect president. He's doing what he can. He's really honestly doing what he can, and more than anybody expected. But if you're like me, and if you're a social anarchist, or if you're a socialist, and you don't think the system itself is worth saving, then you don't want a President Biden. Biden is the president for the world we have, but he will never be the president for the world we want. He won't even get us there. I'm not an incrementalist. Things, yes, they have to happen one by one, We can't have an overnight revolution as much as I want to, but man, they can happen a lot faster than these little piddly little changes around the edges that make life just a little bit more comfortable for a few people. I mean, again, like the $35 cap on insulin. That's a great thing. It's going to help a few people. It's going to make a real big difference in some people's lives. But it ain't systemic. It's not the solution we need. Presidential politics. Before the episode is over here, got to talk a little bit about the Iowa caucus. Again, completely broken system. The way we choose presidents is so screwed up. The Iowa caucus is just ridiculous. It gets a year's worth of attention. The media goes nuts, wall-to-wall coverage, as though it's the most important thing in the world. A few people have pointed out, and I'm happy to share this information, a couple of 100 million registered voters in Iowa, only 750K registered as Republicans, and about 55,000 people participated in the Iowa caucus. Of those 55,000 people that participated, the Orange Menace got about 25,000 votes. So that means that the Orange Menace got just over 1% of all of Iowa's registered voters, and only half of the Republicans who showed up. So it's a minuscule fraction of people in Iowa, let alone people in the whole United States. So the Iowa caucus is a joke. It's ridiculous. It's more than a joke. It's oh man, I gotta pull out a thesaurus for this one. I can't think of a strong enough word. It's an abomination, and the perception we get as voters, as Americans, it's just the most colossal lie of all that any of this means anything. And so now we got New Hampshire coming up. We'll see what happens there. Well, the time is up. It's all horrible, and it needs to be fixed. Yes, we have to live in the world we have, but we can't stop fighting every single goddamn day for the world we want. And we'll never get the world we want with Democrats. With Republicans, we will get a total dystopia, so I'm not saying go over there. I'm saying we need to go independent, we need to go left, we need to go socialist, social anarchist, we need to get lateral distribution of power, we need to get money out of pretty much everything. I won't go into my full philosophy here, but just as a framework to how the Democrats and Republicans will never, ever get us where we need to go. And where we are right now is just in a whole deep mess. But the sun is shining, and I love you, and let's just keep plowing forward, shall we? All right, thanks to our flagship terrestrial station, River West Radio, riverwestradio.com. Thanks to Peter Donalds, who writes and performs the theme music. Go to my website for all of the podcasts that have ever been recorded in all of the history of podcasts. That's charlesburcell.com. Is that it? I think that's it. Okay. I'm Charles Purcell. This is The Log. I'll talk to you next week.